Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Peter with Ford Addicts here. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome back to the channel. Today I got my buddy Jairo here.
How you guys doing?
And this great, beautiful Gladiator right behind me is his. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be trimming the fenders and installing some new inner fenders so that his massive 40-inch tires that he's installed on his Jeep won't rub. So basically all we're going to be walking you through today is what we're going to be doing as far as trimming the inside of the fenders and then installing this beautiful MotoBilt inner fenders that he picked up, which if you look at this, MotoBilt never disappoints. They do great work. These look amazing, and I think they're going to look even better on that Gladiator. So this new set of 40s he just got installed. He's got a set of KMCs, and what model KMCs are they?
Grenade rock crawlers, real beadlocks.
Yes, let me reiterate that. These are real beadlocks.
No way!
So, what we want to do is just to be able to make some clearance so that the tire doesn't rub. And that's what we're going to be tackling today. So if you stay tuned, we're going to walk you step by step on how to install these inner fenders and how to trim the rest. All right, guys, so what we're going to be doing now is we've already assembled the inner fenders. They kind of these come in two pieces and they have a bunch of bolts that we have to put in. We've kind of already pre-assembled that just, to make it a little bit faster. You're going to be using a 1/8 inch hex key and then a 10mm socket on the other side to assemble this. These will be installed with some of the rib nuts that come with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to tear out the inner fenders and then we got to install these in. You definitely don't need a 9 amp hour battery on the ratchet. Jairo just wanted to make sure we didn't run out of juice. It's pretty straightforward. Assembling this, I just wanted to kind of go over what you're going to need. Whatever's easier for you. We're using this little ratchet wrench to make it quicker, but really it's up to you. And then you will be needing something to install the rib nuts. We're just using this rib nut installing tool, which is just this little nut. Okay, so we basically got this first fender ripped out. He's already got these running lights that he installed from Rugged Ridge. And all we did right now, he had some previous wiring. We kind of just cleaned it up. As you can see, we put some loom and zip tied everything in place. There's a relay on this back side over here. And we just kind of cleaned it up. We did use a plastic trim kit to remove everything, just because once everything goes back in, it's going to be heavily reliant on those plastic clips. So we're going to go ahead and replace all the clips while we do this. But he just cleaned up pretty much everything on there too. He took a rag, wiped it down, so it's nice and clean, ready for us to start going through it all. And we're going to start separating the fender now. But as you can see, this is going to open up substantially. So we're going to go ahead and get going with this. I just wanted to give you a quick update. You want to be careful when you're removing all these clips. Not so much be careful to break the clips, but it's more so to protect the actual fender itself. So the fender's over here. Let me grab that real quick. What you want to protect when you're removing these, it's going to be these right here. You want to protect this plastic all the way around. It's not so much the clips. The clips are gonna do their job and break, which is what you want to do. It's easier to replace the actual clips, but to fix the plastic on the actual fender, you may potentially need to use a plastic welder or something to get it to work properly. But right now we're going to remove this. We're going to remove this inner portion here. This black plastic is going to all come off. We're going to take it off. It's going to turn. So by the time we're done, all you're going to see is just white, basically the white fender. It'll give it more room for these 40s to be able to flex a little bit better. So as you can see, this trim here, it runs all the way down. And we'll be able to run it accordingly. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So one thing I wanted to show, so make sure we showed, is removing this plastic, separating this plastic piece from the actual fender itself, from the white fender. What I'm going to be using today is this die grinder, basically, and this is going to allow us to get in there a little tight in the little tighter spots to cut off some of those plastic clips. That way we can actually cut it off and make it easier so we fight it less. We have a plastic trim kit here. to be able to separate some of these plastic pieces so we don't damage the paint as we're removing it. But the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut this off. So let me go ahead and start trimming this. All right, guys, so basically what we're going to do now is we're going to replace these clips. Hire about a bunch of these clips to be able to replace them all, because we were accounting to replace them because we knew we were going to break them, because we were going to try to protect the fender. We're also going to put some adhesive tape here for the marker lights in the corners, and we're going to snap these in place, and then we'll show you what kind of clearance he's gained. All right, so one thing I wanted to make sure we went over is we actually struggled quite a bit to get this inner fender to line up in here. The bottom of this right here kept on rubbing here. Hyro's running some Fox reservoirs here, so that was pressing up against it. It kind of presses up against here, but after a lot of finagling and cleaning up in here, we were able to get it to finally fit properly. We actually have it all marked out, and now we're going to proceed to actually drill the holes. But I will give you a fair warning that it actually took longer than we expected, because we really fought this through quite a bit. So one thing I will say is I wish there was better instructions for the install. And just because there's a lot of little details, and I don't know if they really accounted for all the reservoir shocks, or if there's a different kind of Hyro was mentioning, and there's a DIY kit for coilovers and things like that. So I don't know if, because he's running the Fox 2.0 with the reservoir, they're pretty big shocks. I don't know if that's what's causing the problem, or what caused it for us to have to really work it in there. But it took us a good 30-45 minutes to just to get it to fit correctly. And we haven't even started with the other side. So just a fair warning, if you're running Fox 2.5s and your reservoir is set up like Hyro's, I would definitely give you the piece of advice that when you take it off, plan on taking your time to make it fit correctly, clean up the wiring. We had the marker light here that we had to do, and we had already run the wiring in one way first. We had to rerun the wiring to make it sure that it's out of the way. So we're gonna go ahead and start drilling now. All right. For the install of the rivet nuts, we're actually going to be using this Dorman rivet nut setter, which is a lot simpler than the actual gun. You simply just, it's basically like a spacer that you hold, and it comes with the bolt, and as you tighten the bolt, the rib nut expands. There's really no right or wrong way. I've seen people do it with just, you know, nuts or washers and the bolt, and then there's also the rib nut gun. So there's really no right way to do this. Whatever you feel more comfortable with is what you can go with. For us, this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start setting these up. All right, guys, so we wrapped up the front. The passenger and the driver's side are both done, and it turned out super sick, and he's got all kinds of clearance in there now. So I don't think he's really gonna have a whole lot of problem with rubbing issues. So I think that we achieved our goal that we were trying to do by trimming those fenders, and then especially installing those inner fenders from MotoBilt. They really opened everything up, cleared everything up in there, and it looks really clean. It turned out better than I expected. I'm really impressed with how good it looks. Those MotoBilt inner fenders really look real clean. But now that we got that all wrapped up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get started with the rears. We're gonna do the same process that we did in the front, which is basically taking this black plastic, which is right here, off of the painted portion of the fenders. And by the time we're done, all you're gonna see is just the painted portion of these rear fenders. So we're gonna completely remove them. We're gonna undo them, unclip them from each other, just like we did in the front. We'll show you what we do to get them detached from the painted portion, and we'll kind of walk you step by step. So stay tuned. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do on these rear fenders is we're actually gonna remove these rivets here. These are just plastic rivets. So what we're starting to do first is we're just pushing the inside of the rivet in. That way it's easier to dismantle them together, dismantle the two pieces. All right, so to push these rivets in, I'm simply just using a small Phillips head that fits in the middle of the rivet. And as I go in, I just kind of push it in, and it completely just pushes the rivet in the inside, and it falls off. So that basically allows the inner fender to come off a lot easier. That way, as you can see, because those are off, now the inside just kind of pops off. As you can see here, this is going to come off now because it's no longer being held up by that rivet. There's three 8mm bolts on the backside of the inner fender that have to be removed to be able to completely take it off. But now that the front is off, once I take off those 3 bolts, it'll come right off. All right, so these 3 bolts back here are the ones that are holding that inner fender inside of these rear fenders. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove these. These should just come right out now. that really just opens this up. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna carefully remove these clips in the back of this, and that way we can put this on the table and take it apart.
Go ahead.
All right, guys, so what we're gonna be doing here is we're trying to carefully remove all these clips, just because they're a lot easier to get removed here. So we're using these needle nose pliers, and we're basically just kind of holding them, and we're just kind of pressing one by one. Oh, that one's already off. And it's allowing us to remove them carefully. So as you can see, we're moving them one by one. They're coming off, and then the whole fender will slowly come off. All right, so we're gonna get that last one.
All right, pull it out.
Out.
Perfect.
Just like that. We only broke one clip on this one. The rest of them pretty much came out whole, so we'll only need to replace one of them on this fender. So now we're gonna take it over to the table and take it apart. So the way we're pushing these rivets in is basically we're just kind of taking this Phillips and we're pressing them in one at a time. And that just kind of allows it for them to come apart. Turn it over. Oh, this one's already popped. So now that it's been kind of removed, because it's loose, now they just easily come off. Because there's nothing on the inside of them. So they just easily pop off once you push that in. As you can see, that comes off now. Makes it a lot easier to remove instead of having to sit there. You could also drill them out if you have the room. However, this was a lot faster for us to do than to drill them out. And now we'll start taking the rest of these portions off. We're going to be cutting these fins. All these fins here are holding that inner portion of it. So we're going to cut those out with the die grinder and start separating this all apart. And safety first. Alright, so that basically kind of finishes cleaning up this fender. Again, for us this worked out the best. You can use a full-size grinder. You could probably use a jigsaw, but for us, being able to control the RPM and being able to run it at a low RPM makes it a lot easier to cut, and it creates for a much cleaner cut with such a small size wheel. So a Dremel, if you run down the RPM, you'd be able to use it as well. I think that would work well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clean up the inside of the fender, see if anything needs to get cleaned up, any wiring or whatever may need to get cleaned up. We're not going to be installing inner fenders in the rear. Jairo's going to be ordering some inner fenders later on. So right now we're basically going to put these back on, and it's going to stay open. So that'll allow for clearance. So the main goal today is really being able to create clearance for these 35 for these 40-inch tires. Since he just put these 40s in and he just put all this stuff into the truck, we want to be able to open up those wheel wells, so when he's flexing that truck out, we can be able to make room for him to be able to articulate as he's going down the trail. So the next step for us right now is, before we go to the trail, is we're going to take it out and we're going to flex it out and see if we need to make any adjustments to the bump stops or see what we need to do. But as of right now, if the rear turns out anything like the front did, it shouldn't have any issues. So we'll move on to the next step. We'll start putting everything back on. All right, guys, so we're about to wrap this up. This is the final step of this. What we ended up doing today, preparing for this future for the inner fenders, we actually trimmed it a little bit here as well as down here. And since he's gonna be running the stock sliders for the time being, we also cut the rock sliders back here. So we cut quite a bit. They were further out this way. And that was just us trying to think ahead so that when he orders the new inner fenders, we don't have to do anything else. He already cleaned up everything inside. He zip tied some of these cables that needed to be cleaned up. And now the final step that we have to do is just snap these back into place. You want to give me a hand out here? You want to start on your side or?
Line up everything up.
Okay, I'm lined up. So you start on your side.
Ready?
Go ahead. So they'll just slide. You hear it snap into place. And the way I like to do it is start on one end, work its way to the other. So everything's pretty much snapped where it need to be. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of clearance now here. So this really opened it up in the front and in the rear, which is what our main goal was with this video. So what we wanted to do is next week when we go rock crawling, he's able to flex this puppy out and not have to hit the fenders. So overall, I think the outcome of the product was great. I think this thing looks super sick. The way it looks in the front is really nice. Hyro's really happy. I'm really proud of how it turned out as well. So if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing. If you have any comments, suggestions, put them down in the comments. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you've done this and you've done something different or you like something that we did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And remember, it's 4 Little Addicts, build, wheel, break, and repeat. And stay tuned for the next one.